So today, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. This is Dr. Eric Block, and we're here on Facebook Live for the first of a weekly series of live Facebook events for I Love Dentistry. And we're joined by Dr. Sonny Spera, who owns and maintains 5 fee-for-service practices, Progressive Dental in Southern Tier of New York and Northeastern PA. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. And Dr. Sonny Spera started as an associate in 1989 and then purchased his first practice in 1991 with 4 ops and 6 staff. And it's grown to 5 offices with 6 doctors and over 60 staff. They have a fully integrated on-site dental lab with 2 CDTs, and he enjoys practicing digital dentistry with a passion for clinical diagnosis, restorative dentistry, practice management, team building, and growth. His background is heavily rooted in team sports. A 1985 graduate of Syracuse University, Dr. Spera was a full 4-year scholarship basketball player, including team co-captain in 1985, along with 3 NCAA tournament appearances and 1 Sweet 16 finish. Dr. Spera is a graduate of SUNY Buffalo Dental School, OKU member, and was also a full-time graduate assistant basketball coach while at UB. He is a member of the American Dental Association, NYS Dental Association, 6th District Dental Society, and the Broome County Dental Society. He is also a member of Academy of General Dentistry, International Association of Orthodontics, the American Academy of Dental Implant Association, and the Pierre Farshad Academy. And his son Marcus has recently joined the family at Progressive Dental. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Eric. That was a really nice introduction.
Man, that's quite the resume you got there. So your son Marcus is now practicing with you. What's that like?
Yeah, it's been great. I never thought much about it and how it was going to be, but it's turned out to be fantastic. Very enjoyable. It changes the tone of our conversations. We just have to be careful not to monopolize family time, but it's been really fun. And he offers a really neat perspective, so it's been a delight.
My daughter, who's 8, calls that boring dentist stuff. So yeah, you can't talk too much tooth in front of the rest of the family. So
we're very good at that.
You have 5 fee-for-service practices?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you ever accept PPOs, or did it always start out like this? Or tell me your journey here.
It's been like that since day one. So when I joined the practice as an associate in 1989, I graduated June of 89. And back in the old days, you had to wait for your license to come in the mail. So you were not able to license to do anything. So I didn't start practice till August of 1989. And I had my son in September of 1989. So that's the guy that's in the practice with me. Then in 1991, we had our second child in May. And then just for giggles, we bought our own practice October 1, 1991. I'd like to do things in streaming, so, so when we bought that practice, it was a fee-for-service practice at the time. I didn't know there were a couple of other minor things going on. It was a very small town, it was a rural town. And I had said to the docs that I was in with, hey, do you guys want to do this? And they said, no, we don't want to go out there. So I said, okay, I'm going to sail my own ship. Let's do this. So, you sign the loans, you borrow from your father, you borrow from your father-in-law, you put everything on the line, and you wing it, right? So that's what we did. And we've grown it, and it's done well. And we've managed to increase our footprint a little bit and added some docs, added some offices, and expanded our reach a little bit.
And you're up to 5 offices. Would you consider yourself like a small DSO?
Oh, no, no, I would not. I would say we're a small personal private care dental office. So, the relationships that we have with our patients and the doctors have it with that, and the staff and everything. And we're in small towns, so we're not in any big metropolitan areas. So What's really cool, what's really cool, I never thought about this at the time, but each location has such a different flavor, yet has the exact same principles and practices and processes in place and everything, and people really. And it's, like people say, you can't do that here. No, you probably can. It's just a matter of how you do it and that kind of stuff. So every day, it's a different day in a different office, and it's been fun.
And now, how do you manage 5 offices? Do you have different teams set up in each office? Do you have one central team? How does that work?
That is a great question. So one of the offices, which is probably the farthest, about an hour drive, that one is the furthest out. That we sort of have a team of people that are kind of from that community, and they don't cross over as much. We do a little bit. They do a little bit for the most part, but not a lot. The other offices, there's more, overlap. And of the 5 practices, there's 4 different business entities, but we run it as though it's one practice. So how does it go? Well, that was the challenge when you grow, is how do you structure it so that you don't lose that personal touch and feel, especially with your team. And then how do you add layers, but you don't want to be removed? Like I don't want someone to have to, make an appointment to talk to me or whatever. So I work, my hands are wet every day, and I love it, but you also have to spend the time running it. And I've got great people that I work with that are just, I'm so very fortunate to have around me. I've got my wife who is 100% on board, and she's involved in the practice by maintaining the because each one is in its own business, it's in its own building. So there's real estate to manage, and making sure the paint walls are painted and so the stuff that you want to have done, but you really don't want to do it, she takes care of all of that. So that's a tremendous help. Office manager. So and you get a little bigger, you can hire some of these people. So setting up your own lab, having a CFO, a person that handles, the financial end, the bill payables, the bills, all that stuff. And then now with the pandemic, we sort of created 2 positions. So we have someone that helps with the insurance and the billing, and someone that helps handle some other aspects for us. That's strictly just that financial part. We put in our own call center. We call it a care team. And so, borrowing from some of the tricks of the trade of some other companies. And that's been rocky. We've had a hard time maintaining that team, because we've hired, we've trained, we've lost, we've hired, we've trained, lost. And that's been hard. But I think in the end, I think it will be very helpful, and still maintain that personal connection. But now a person's calling, they're expecting to talk to Joanne. Well, now they're talking to Diane, and they don't know, but now I don't want to lose that touch. So that's been a very strong current to try to make sure we maintain that small town understanding.
Now, you have a large team.
Yeah.
How has the post-COVID world affected your team and being able to staff your team? And has
tough.
it been, a challenge?
Brutal. Yeah, it's been brutal. I mean, we've been decimated in different areas. We've had to get creative. We hired a hygiene assistant. She's a wonderful girl right out of high school, and then she gives her 2-week notice because she got paid, basically $8 an hour more at Panera, and she wants to be a hygienist. I'm like, well, that's not really in your career field, but she's making $22, $23 an hour at Panera, and they made her an assistant manager. She's right out of high school. Mm-hmm. So, okay, lots of luck. Hopefully you're still interested in hygiene. If you want to go that route, we're still involved with helping. And, because we were thinking of it more of like on the job training kind of thing and helping her. And so, you just when you start getting your comfort, like, hey, we're going up, your feet get taken out from underneath you. And then some other, other turnovers in areas that you expect or don't expect. I mean, most of our people have been with us for long periods of time, but you never know. All of a sudden something changes, and definitely people freaked out in the pandemic. And then do they come back? Where do they come back? What's their capacity? and and the vaccination now, and just a different change, right? And I mean, that's one of our core values is adaptability to change, but not everybody can make those changes as you roll along. So it's been a challenge.
Yeah, there was, BC and AC before COVID and after COVID. It's a
Yeah, that's
very
a good
different
point.
world now. And now, have you found to
Wait
be
a
able
second.
to
Wait a
go?
second. You have a New England Patriots on your chair?
I do. Yep, I
We,
have one
we
here.
we're gonna have to cut this conversation really
we're
short.
gonna we're
I'm
gonna
a
have to end
Buffalo
this.
Bill fan. Just I'm just putting it out there. I saw that. Like you snuck that in. That's all right.
I snuck
Okay.
that in there a little bit. Yeah,
I
for
saw
everyone to see.
that. Oh God.
Yep.
Take this out of my chest. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
We'll blank when we record this and replay it. We'll blank that out for you.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask you if any of your positions went from live to more remote or virtual, if you were able to adapt using virtual work for any of your staff.
We have tried some of it. Definitely during the pandemic period, and then as it came back a little bit, but overall we find we're much better at what we do with the people that are there. So no, it's on site. We have meetings, and then we have some training sessions, and before we could get everybody kind of back together safely, let's call it, right, we had to do a lot of that remotely. So 5 or 6 people in this office, and then we had to figure out how to use Zoom or a connection so that we could, do some training and some explanations in that, in such a way. And most of my key people have, they have their Chromebook, they have their computer, they have, the ability to do things. But in all, no, it's a hands-on job, and how much better it is when people are there. I mean, so much better.
And what about your patient demand? Have you been like bursting at the seams? I mean, we have patients, coming out of, the woodwork, that we haven't seen in like 18 months, and they're finally getting more comfortable, and now they're finally coming back. And, we have a bit of a, capacity issue sometimes. Are you finding the same thing?
Yes and no. I mean, with the hygiene situation, as tough as that's been, we had one hygienist, she got in a car accident. So she's been taken off of work full time, and she was phenomenal, and she wants to be at work, and she can't be, and for the foreseeable future. But I hope she comes back within a year. But that's one hygienist. So we had another hygienist who had some personal issues. So, so you can't depend or rely. So, we've had to morph and mix, and a lot of the other team people have just stepped up tremendously, but there's only so much you can do. So if you're running 3 hygienists 8 hours a day and you lose one, you're down to 2, your capacity gets dinged a little bit, and now you're putting people off, and how do you handle them? And we're starting to do a little bit better job with our soft tissue and perio management program. And we're running into where are we going to schedule them? So that's been a challenge. I mean, that's been really hard. But have I found a push? I've been busy. My docs have all been busy. Our docs have all been busy. Not mine, but our docs have been busy. I don't know. I don't know if anything has to do with, stimulus money or, any of that stuff has made people want to go out and do elective dentistry. But for the most part, I think a lot of people have been, let's get this done. A few people thinking of retiring, trying to get stuff done. So yeah, we've been pretty busy. I think in 2021, we might've had our best year ever. I know I met with my accountant, and he showed me some numbers, and I was like, nah, it can't be me. But it's been a good year.
Yeah, it's also, I feel like the availability of patients, a lot of them are working from home, and now they can come in on Tuesday at 10 a.m., whereas before they couldn't. So that has really, I think, helped.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Yep.
Are you fully digital in your practice?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No analog impressions?
Only if we can't read our scan, or if it's really deep subgingival, or we have a hard time with the soft tissue. I mean, we have the laser, we have, but I don't know if you're doing fully digital impressions, but there's some tough ones. Sometimes, I did one on a tooth number 30. I think I was halfway down the mesial buccal root. That was tough. And hard to read it. So sometimes we'll take just a quadrant, just like it's a very small little piece. It's almost like a 2 or 3 tooth impression. And we'll do that in addition to the scan, and then we'll digitize it at our lab. So, and our lab is doing everything except partial frameworks is the only thing we're sending out right now. So
now, were you fully digital before COVID?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you have your own lab. So how many labs do you have?
No, we have one lab in one of the offices. But
okay,
it serves all. Yeah.
Serves all 5. Okay. And so their own milling machine for zirconia crowns.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I found that we started to go digital after the pandemic, and it's I would never go back to to analog impressions. Like you're saying, occasionally maybe there's a case, but it's it's nice not to have to handle a bloody impression and mail it out, and especially nowadays with the in the COVID situation, less contamination or touch points, the better. So going digital is the way to go.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the one thing. It definitely, to me, I spent a lot more time on my prep now than I did prior. But I spend almost no time at the insert appointment. If it's really more than 5 to 8 minutes long, then something's wrong. So, and it was beautiful because initially I was working out, your contacts and your, temporaries and what have you. And I was like, it's just a little bit light, or it's a little occlusal. It needs to drop a little more towards the gingival. The contact, the embrasure point's a little high, and and yeah, we'll adjust that, 0.002. I'm like, what? 2/100ths of a millimeter, and they're able to dial it in, and literally, it's like, try it in. I don't even want to use the articulated paper anymore, but because I'm so confident that it's there. But check it, it's fine. Glue it in, and the slowest part is the glue set. It's incredible.
Yeah,
that's a game
I
changer.
found it is. I found it's made me a better dentist because I'll just scan the prep and then I'll take a look at it, and then from there I'll make some adjustments, especially with the bite, the occlusion. It is such a game changer.
And you're looking at that prep at 10, 20, 30, 30 times, and you're like, oh my goodness, I thought it looked good. I got to smooth that margin. I don't like this little lip on the corner. I got to fix it. You start, and that's what I mean. I spent a lot more time prepping it and critiquing it, and so and a little and much more respective of the soft tissue as well. Before, we were cutting long, kind of a bevel chamfer or bevel shoulder and long bevels. We were deep subgingival, and it was, cut it, don't matter, throw the cord in, take the impression. And now it's very respective of all that around it, and been happy with it. Some nice work.
Now, having your own lab, what's the turnaround time for a case?
It's a week.
Mm-hmm.
Can be quicker if I need it. Like, I did and that's another thing. Okay. You're prepping it on Tuesday and they're leaving town. All right, I need it back by Thursday. And if I prep it Tuesday morning at 7 and I make sure it goes to my lab by Tuesday afternoon, it's done. Now, if I really need it fast, they can wet mill it and I can have it in an hour,
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, I don't need it that quick for the most part. But if I had to, I could. But, if the office is a little bit away, the other thing is, the beauty of it is, and the spoiled part of it is, you're doing a crown and you get the shade back and you're like, you know what, just, I need a little, and, come on and and then you're telling the patient, now the ceramist is falling over them and your technicians, and it's just, being very attentive to the patient and very custom, and they're not getting charged extra for it, so they're happy, and we want to do it till it's done the best we can. So that's what's helped our practice. And now it's like, I could never live without it. The people and what they do and how they help us with our services,
Yeah, there's nothing like that in-person shade match with the technician. It doesn't get any better than that.
Nothing like it. I had a crown. This is funny. I had a crown on number 30, and for some reason, the lingual wall, he came in, is like, I felt something rough, and I was like, oh my God, the lingual wall broke off this. So I told the lab, I said, just make me another one. and just make sure, because it was probably had a little undercut. I said, just a little more block for the undercut and just make me a new one. So I cut it off carefully and put the new one on and done,
Yeah, it is so nice to have it, on file, where in the old days you would have to cut the crown off, take a new
Yeah.
impression, start all over again. But you have that, that prep on file and just, remill a new one.
Mhm.
Now, are you personally in this post-COVID world? Are you going back to live events,
I
live
have.
conferences?
Yep. I went out to Gordon Christensen's in Utah with my son. I went to the Nathan Host Summit that he held down in Arlington with my son. That was pretty cool. There's nothing like interacting with other people. I mean, that's the cool part. I mean, it's great to learn, but you're sitting around friends that you don't know they're your friends yet, And then, we met this guy who I'll never forget, Gordon, and he started talking to my son a little closer in age, but he was working, I think, on a Native American, reservation and in another practice, and we just engaged immediately, and then we had dinner with a couple from Atlanta, and it's you have so much in common no matter how you practice. I don't care if you're in network, out of network, you charge $50 or $5,000. You have a lot in common because you're dealing with people, you're dealing in that little tiny space, and it's not easy.
Yeah, we live these parallel lives, and
Yep.
there's nothing like engaging with, a dentist to another dentist, a hygienist to another hygienist, because we just get each other. Been
Yeah.
through the trenches of dental school and private practice, and now, I'm 46, I have a family and a house, and you just get each other. Whereas a lot of it's hard to explain the little our world to someone who's a non-dental professional. I just don't quite understand it. And there's just nothing like a live event. I mean, just I was all virtualed out after COVID. Maybe millennials now, they are in the virtual world more, but I need to go back to live events. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, there's nothing to replace the interaction. Like I was gonna try to go to the Yankee again this year, Yankee conference, but I didn't get in time, and then I still coach basketball, so I'd taken some time off this past week. I missed a game and I missed 3-4 days of practice because I went to two of my alma mater's games at Syracuse. They played in New York City and then they played in DC. So a lot of car time this week. So back home again feels good. Sleep back in your own bed, but it was fun, and I couldn't justify taking off another 3-4 days and missing a game or two. So that one was
Speaking
on
of
me. Going in February to Arizona for a catapult event. So
okay. Speaking of cars, if you could hop in that DeLorean, like in Back to the Future, and punch it to 88 and go back in time, what would you tell a young Sonny Sparrow?
What I tell young Sonny Sparrow? Oh boy. Yeah, I'm not a guy that does a lot of regrets. So I would probably say to make sure you have some balance in your life. Listen to your wife when she tells you it's got to be date night. When you have two young kids and you can't see the light of the tunnel at the end is not a train. And just absolutely enjoy the moment, smell the roses, work your tail off, but have a plan, and make sure you have great people around you and mentors to listen to. So that was something that was absolutely essential for me. My father was a big help in our practice when we were in our infancy. Dr. Dwayne Schmidt, Howard Ferran. I mean, those guys they changed my life. So I can't thank him enough.
Now your son has joined the practice, a young, new young buck. What would you tell, a young dentist coming out of school? They're $400,000 in debt. What would you tell them in this post-COVID world?
What would I tell them? It's funny. I just had a conversation with a younger doc just yesterday for almost an hour and a half on the ride back. We were talking about a few things. I know that, there's different perspectives. I think some people go into dentistry thinking I'm going to work just to make this amount of money, that I'm moving on, or I would say that you got to love it. It's got to be a passion of yours, and then go out and get good at it, and get good at people, and get good at emotions, and get good at, male female interaction, because a lot of the females control a lot of the dollars that are spent in dentistry. So you have to understand that dynamic. And it's not sexist, it's not misogynist, it's just understand the differences between men and women and how it affects the healthcare. And then also your team is predominantly going to be mostly female, traditionally. So how does that affect, and how do you respect the people, hire the right people, get in the right environment, and don't compromise? Because when you start to compromise, you start to really get into ethical questions and ethical dilemmas. And I know it might be hard if you're heavily in debt, but I've always felt that you can make it work. Find some place that you can make it work. Find some place that will help you learn. Because the two guys that I work with were fantastic dentists, good business people. I learned a lot from them. A couple things I learned I don't want to do, but most of which I learned, I want to do exactly what I've learned. I want to tweak it a little bit. It's kind of like game planning when you're coaching. How do you do this? How do you get, boom, boom, boom. So those kind of things I think will guide you, and you really have the ability to control your own destiny. And I'm not a big fan of being in the employment of a money driven or money hungry practice that's strictly based on numbers and finances. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't look at my numbers often. I just think if you take care of people, and I tell every single doc that comes into workforce, if you take great care of people, that money will take care of itself. And it's been true. And trust your gut, and those kind of cliches are just true. There's no magic pill, there's no magic formula or course. I mean, if you start placing implants, or you start doing this or whatever, it's not magic. You've got to communicate with that patient, create a desired need and a value, and then you've got to provide the services that they now want and need. So that's missing sometimes. And sometimes it's just people are just doing math equations. It's not a math equation at all. It's a human condition. It's a problem solving thing. Sounds corny, doesn't it? Sorry.
No, I mean, I think you had about 20 great points right there.
That's
awesome
what I think
stuff.
anyway.
Yeah. That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
Yeah, I'm not too complicated. It's pretty simple. I just don't make it complicated. Be the other message. Don't make it complicated.
Yep. Awesome stuff, man. Hey, thank you so much for joining us again. That was a fast half hour. Dr. Sonny Sparrow, that was a blast. And this is going to be the first of a weekly Facebook Live on I Love Dentistry. And I hope everyone has a great night. Sonny, thanks so much.
You're welcome. I didn't realize that was the first. Oh my goodness. I would have dressed a little better. I didn't know.
That's all right. I'm wearing a t-shirt, so we're all casual here.
Oh, wait. I got my Syracuse t-shirt on. There you go. All right.
There you go.
Cover up. I got to get my Bill stuff out too, now that you got that Patriots.
So. Yeah. Next time. Yeah.
All right. Next time.
All right, man, have a good night.
You got it. Be good. Peace.
All right. You too. Take care.